Well, for more, we're joined by Josh Blackman, an Associate Professor of Law at South Texas College and a constitutional law expert. He joins us live now from Houston. Lovely to talk to you, Josh. Now, this significantly expands the scope of the original travel ban. Why has it gone further, do you think?
Well, what we have to understand is that the travel ban was never meant to be permanent. It was a temporary pause to give the government an opportunity to reassess its policies. And over the past few months, the government has undertaken a rigorous analysis of the policies with respect to 200 nations in the world. And they've determined that some of the countries provide enough information about people coming in, some of them don't. And there was a collaborative process going forward and back. But now, after this review process is completed, they've determined that these 9 countries cannot be trusted to provide accurate information, and that there are going to be various restrictions imposed on people coming to the United States from those nations.
Give us an example of where there's been collaboration between nations that has resulted in them being excluded on this kind of exclusion list.
So, for example, Sudan was on the initial list, and the government explained that after a fairly rigorous process, Sudan came up and they provided what needed to be provided, and they dropped off the list. In conflict, other nations which they tried to work with, like Syria or Iran, simply have no diplomatic relations with the United States and could not be trusted to provide accurate information.
Now, give us North Korea. I imagine there are not too many people trying to get into the country from North Korea, given that freedom of movement is not one of the luxuries if you're North Korean. So why have they been included?
Well, Rocket Man and his nation right now are not in the best relation with the United States. I think the reason is to be consistent, that unless a country can verify that the people emigrating to the United States are who they say they are, they'll be subject to extra scrutiny. And even within given countries, for example, Somalia, for example, people can come here on various tourist visas, but they can't come here on what are more permanent immigrant visas. So it's really a case-by-case basis in light of what a specific country has. But the important point that I'd like to stress for your viewers is that this goes very far from the argument that this is simply a Muslim ban. And it's not simply because Venezuela and North Korea are added. Those are not Muslim nations. This is a really well-coordinated document vetted by many government agencies based on dialogues with countries around the world. And I think this represents the Trump administration wanting to have a tighter immigration policy. But the argument that this is just about hating Muslims, I think, is a much weaker position than it was earlier this year.
But nevertheless, to your point, a tighter immigration policy, which is also a central plank for Donald Trump.
Exactly. President Trump said he wanted to limit immigration, even legal immigration. That's precisely what he's doing. As a personal matter, I don't like this policy. I think it's unduly burdensome and will result in a lot of people not coming to the United States who should be allowed to. But Congress has given the president his authority. He has the authority under the U.S. Constitution. I think that settles the matter. Now, this case will be before the U.S. Supreme Court in about 2 weeks, and the justices will have to consider not only the old policy, but the new policy.
So there is a good chance. What do you think, as an expert in this field, do you think it's likely to be upheld, that it will go ahead?
I've argued for some time on your show and otherwise that this will probably be upheld. The recent document issued last night, I think, increases the odds it will be upheld. A strong possibility is that the Supreme Court says, okay, let's get rid of these other rulings, go back to square one, and consider this new policy. And that would be a good victory for the Trump administration.
All right. Josh, as always, thanks for your help.
Thank you.